Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. On this channel, we discuss day-to-day problems people face in their lives. Let's start with the video. Mother-in-law, who's known for being dramatic and attention seeker, fake feigns at my engagement party to take away from it. This time, I exposed her for everything. My man and I have been seeing each other for over 2 years. After that, we decided that it was time for us to take a further step into our relationship by getting engaged. But apparently, my mother in law wasn't of the same opinion. I know what you're thinking, that this is probably a typical case of a new bride to be feuding with her mother in law over petty shit. And you're probably right. It all started when my fiance and I were in our first months of dating. At first, I didn't suspect anything when we had to cancel many of our dates because his mom suddenly fell ill or felt the urge to travel across the city and take him with her to settle important matters. I didn't think anything either when she started dressing younger and borderline copying my outfits, hairstyle, and slang. I truly wanted to believe that it was just her way of showing me appreciation, you know? One night in particular stood out. We intended to celebrate our first year together, so we booked a table in a fancy restaurant. So I went out and bought a new dress for the occasion. His mother, who seemingly heard of the news, decided to storm into our apartment barely an hour before our reservation time, a bottle of wine in hand, all smiles. I was happily surprised by her kind gesture and asked if she wanted some before we left, to which she agreed. As I was trying to make small talk with her, she tripped and spilled her cup of wine all over the light colored tissue of my dress. With nothing good enough to wear, we had to cancel our reservation and spend the night indoors with his mom. I still found it in my heart not to doubt her good intentions after seeing her apologizing for what she did. The turning point happened when she invited us over for dinner, and she once again asked my fiance to help her in the kitchen. So I was left alone in the living room, which led to me finding out her journal that she had left the night before on the living room's couch. And oh, did it leave me speechless. As my eyes roamed the pages, I felt my cheeks burning red from anger because I was far from ready to read the bullshit plastered in here. My mother in law kept a very detailed journal, documenting all the times she pretended to be sick to force my fiance to ditch me, how all of the emergencies she claimed to need help with were in fact a plan to keep us from spending time together. The more I read her confessions, the more I grew confused because she had the certainty I was trying to take her son away from her and that we were competing for his time and attention. I was conflicted because a part of me felt terrible for her. I guess that as a mother, it must be heartbreaking to see your child lose interest in you and slowly replace you with another woman. But it still didn't excuse the fact that she was actively trying to destroy our relationship. She even went as far as to write that he was throwing his life away by being with someone like me. Nonetheless, I decided to brush it off and keep this discovery for myself for the sake of my upcoming engagement, even though I didn't understand what I did wrong to deserve her fury. Still, now that I think back on this, it was a mistake on my part to cover for her crazy ass psychotic behavior and expect things to get better. After months of putting up with her antics, while also preparing for my engagement party, needless to say, I was exhausted, on the verge of exploding. I had shelled out $5,500 to host a beautiful party at a nearby hotel and invited all of our close family members and friends. The day comes when I'm finally making it official with the love of my life. Everything was perfect, exactly how I envisioned it. Even my mother in law seemed to have cooled down. Lately, she didn't interfere with the preparations and even participated in the final touch ups. It was too good to be true, and boy, was I right. Just as we were going to exchange toasts, I saw my mother in law faint right in the middle of the dining hall, where everyone could see her, as expected of a villainess such as her. Of course, the party turns into a disaster since my fiance, who's highly attached to his mother, decides to abruptly put a stop to the festivities and take her back home, leaving me behind like disposable goods. But this time, I decided to fight back. I wasn't going to let her get away with ruining my special day. So I got down to the spot where she was lying, pretending to be unconscious, and told her to stop acting. My fiance got upset and started to defend his mother, saying how cruel it was and selfish of me to try and frame his mother when she was sick and in need of medical assistance, and that our engagement party wasn't as important as her well being. At that point, I was too deep to stop anyway, so I decided to let everything off my chest. I told her that I had found her journal and told everyone aloud what kind of content I had seen in it and how she admitted that she'd ruin our dates by making silly scenarios. I even went as far as to say that I took pictures of it as proof. Of course, it was a bluff, an attempt to force her to counterattack, and it worked. She suddenly opened her eyes, wide with shock, as she didn't expect this turn of events. It became clear to everyone at that moment that she indeed was faking her state of unconsciousness. She felt cornered with no alternative than to attack me, saying how I was in the wrong for looking into her diary as it was something intimate. For a split second, I swear, I saw disgust in my fiance's eyes as if me defending myself and exposing his mother was the real problem. So him taking her side wasn't that much of a surprise. But it didn't matter to me anymore because the relief I felt made up for it. It's as if a huge weight got lifted off my chest, and it allowed everyone that was attending that day, her family included, to see her for what she truly was, a crazy, hysterical, and cunning woman. The outcome of our not so little outburst was me giving back my engagement ring to my now ex fiance because I was genuinely disappointed in how he didn't even consider for a split second that I might be the one telling the truth. And as much as this decision pains me, I also couldn't possibly bear to have to deal with the insanity his mother put me through for the rest of my effing life. The moral of this story: before picking a partner for life, you might want to consider checking if he has weird relational issues with one of his parents. Also consider that once a mama's boy is always a mama's boy. So don't waste your time fixing his codependency and focusing on yourself. So, do you guys think I'm in the wrong for what I did? Like maybe I should have reacted differently, or perhaps I should have let it slide once more and confronted her afterwards once we. Also, is breaking up my engagement too extreme? My ex says we should try and make things work again. But as I said before, I don't like risking my mental sanity trying to solve his mommy issues. I mean, who got time for that? Not the a-hole. Honestly, ain't nobody got time to handle and raise somebody's freshly birthed child. If he's willing to prioritize his relationship with his mom at the expense of his with you, he should probably stick around her and focus all his efforts on her. You're the a-hole. My man was just trying to balance things out. Even if she was faking it, you didn't mention if he was aware of her faking shit. So he was reacting to a situation adequately, and costing him an engagement is unfair on your part. Horrible decision. You're the a-hole. He didn't even know about her faking things based on what you said when she fainted. Why would you jump to pull the gun on something that he seemed to be doing the right thing in? Nobody got time to solve mommy issues, but everybody got time to focus on building good relationships because they aren't stumbled upon overnight. Next story. For context, my daughter, 19 female, currently lives with me, 50 male, and my wife, 46. She is saving up for her own place, but still lives with us to save money as she pays for her college and all other utilities like her car and insurance. Because she works and is a good student, I don't make her pay rent as long as she helps out and respects our rules. My wife is not her biological mom and does not get along with my daughter too well, but keeps her opinions to herself most of the time. Recently, I've noticed that instead of coming home after work like normal, my daughter started staying out until nearly 3 in the morning and would sneak into the house. This very quickly became a normal occurrence, and I started to worry since she was never one to stay out like that. We also don't live in the safest area, so of course I'm going to worry. My wife started to notice as well and was getting annoyed that she would be woken up in the middle of the night when my daughter snuck in. She insisted that my daughter had to be doing something illegal if she was sneaking around and should be dealt with, but that didn't sit right with me. I finally confronted my daughter about it, and she confessed. The reason she was staying out late was to spend time with her friends and boyfriend after work. They all work in the same area and don't really get to hang out otherwise, so they hang out in their cars or go to the nearby fast food places so they can spend time together. My daughter isn't one for keeping secrets, so I believed her, but my wife did not. She accused my daughter of multiple inappropriate acts and said she had no genuine reason to stay out that late. If she kept trying, she would be locked out of the house and have her car taken. To me, this was going too far since my daughter is an adult and can make her own choices. I pulled my daughter aside and told her she was allowed to stay out if she wanted. I would make sure the garage door was always unlocked and promised my wife would not take her keys or her car. All I asked was that she be quiet coming home and lock the door behind her, and I would appreciate a text saying where she was if something happened. Well, my wife found out about this a few days ago and was absolutely livid. She called me a pushover dad and said I didn't respect her opinion or her ability to parent. I reminded her that my daughter was an adult and she didn't have a right to parent her since she wasn't her mom. She got even more upset and called me a bad parent, saying I would see she was right soon enough. Things are really tense now as her and my daughter can't even be in the same room. And I know my wife is trying to get other family involved. I don't think my daughter is doing anything wrong by staying out, but I'm starting to second guess my choice after all the messages that I'm letting her disrespect us and our rules, as well as my wife's opinion. But I don't know anymore. Am I the a-hole for letting my daughter stay out? Not the a-hole, but your wife is insane. Why would she jump to assuming illegal activities instead of being with friend's boyfriend? Do not let her lock your daughter out at night. That is incredibly dangerous. Is your wife jealous of your daughter, or she seems really determined to alienate your daughter? When I was 19 over the summer, sneaking in at 3 a.m. was definitely because I was out doing stuff with my older boyfriend, 25-ish. The extent of the illegality of my actions was that I was drinking at 19. I wouldn't have told my parents because they'd absolutely take my car away. They paid for it. Not the a-hole. At least she's telling you what she's doing and who she's with. As long as she's not drunk driving or making a ruckus when she gets in, you should treat her like a capable adult. Seriously? Who wants to lock someone out of the house in the middle of the night? Especially not in a very safe area. Not the a-hole original poster. You were right to stand up for your daughter. And while I get that your wife was upset over being woken up, that doesn't give her the right to try to manipulate you to restrict your very adult daughter over something like this. Also, trying to get other family involved is a pretty crappy move from her, especially realizing that she was not being woken up anymore. She found out sometime later after the arrangement. As you said, you made the best choice possible, OP. We need more dads like you are. Not the a-hole. She sounds like a very responsible young woman. I did the same with my friends at that age. You're being a great parent. She is 19. She deserves the space to grow and learn how to make her own choices and the real life consequences to them. Your wife sounds like she just wants to exert control, which is a guaranteed way to ruin your relationship. I would explain that to your wife and make it clear that you have no intention of alienating your daughter for no good reason. Next story. My 32 female, husband 33 male, and I are in the process of adopting. We decided to look into adopting toddlers, young children, not infants. We're in the process of adopting G, 4 female. We had an instant connection and she is wonderful. The agency reached out saying her birth mother is pregnant again and asked the agency if G's new parents would be interested in taking her new baby. After a lot of discussion, we decided to do it. We've always wanted 2 or 3 children. We met the bio mom, 19 female, and things have been going well. She hasn't met G because after the birth, she wants no contact, but has asked about G. She's now 8 months pregnant, and I've been going with her to doctor's appointments. At the last appointment, the nurse was giving names, and A said she's naming the baby Chloe Bell after her mom. I was shocked. We've never talked about names, but husband and I have one picked. After the appointment, I asked about the name, saying we had a name for our daughter already. She said she had picked G, and after giving birth, it was her right. She does not want to be a part of the baby's life, so I think it's unfair. My husband and I took A to lunch to talk about it. She said she didn't realize her daughter's parents were so unreasonable and rude. We have not reached an agreement, but with the closed adoption and her signing away her rights legally, we're the ones choosing the name. Sister-in-law thinks we should appease A. Most families are on our side. I've decided to stick with the name we picked. So, am I the a-hole for picking my daughter's name? Edit 1. A lot of mixed replies, but I did read them all. We have decided to not bring it up again. We will change the name once the adoption officially goes through. Edit 2. For those asking, G was given up for adoption at birth, and A has not seen her since. The adoption has gone through already, and she is our daughter. That all started a while ago. A reached out to the agency shortly after she found out she was pregnant, which was after we were already at the end of adopting G. No a-holes here. This is not a deal breaker. Suck it up and get through what it takes for her to let go and do what is right for her child. She is not a baby machine. She is a biological mother who will be experiencing all the hormones of birth and postpartum with no baby. Then deal with the names afterwards. You will have the child. You don't need to crush her heart on the way. You aren't the a-hole for choosing a name, but you're the a-hole for pressuring the pregnant teen who plans to give up her child for adoption, and for expecting that you can control this process. There are many reasons why someone might want to choose a name for the child they're carrying, even if the child will only have that name for a very short time. Legally, until A signs the papers, she is the baby's parent, empowered to make all legal decisions for the baby, including what name goes on the original birth certificate. Once you adopt, you can change the baby's name. But until that moment, A is in charge. She can, incidentally, change her mind at any time. She can find other adoptive parents or decide to raise her baby. It is not smart of you to engage in this argument. Work it out with a therapist if you have to. Don't take advice from your family here. Talk to lawyers and social workers. The name is literally the last thing she will give her baby, who is not yet your baby, although she probably will be one day soon. Except that she will name her baby, as is her right, and then a little later you will choose to change that name once she is your baby, as is your right. That's how it works. That's what has to happen. The only way it can happen. There's no making sure it doesn't go on the paperwork. Pretty sure that's perjury. You're the a-hole. Source: I'm an adoptive parent. Changed my daughter's middle name post-adoption, which was a process which began a year post-birth, and understood and had respect for her birth family's role, rights, and responsibilities.